So I just wanted to record a quick tutorial about sculpting and reference. It comes up a lot on the Discord and Reddit and stuff. People saying, started to sculpt, I'm trying to match this reference, it doesn't look like the reference, what do I do? My advice is always, have you lined it up against a reference? Can you spot the difference? And I really want to drive that point home. So, for example, if we go to this kind of spot the difference thing, this is one of the more sort of like extreme ones I've found. Those tend to be quite hard. And if you just look at them side by side, it's tricky. If you look for long enough, you can see eventually what's going on. But notice this: if I make a copy of this shape, so I go duplicate, and I then take this one, put its mode into difference, because I'm going to spot the difference. So you can see that when this is aligned exactly, you spot no difference at all. But if I drag the left one to line up with the right one, you start to see that the differences leap out. And more to the point, you can see that it gets confused if you're even like sort of half a pixel out. But if I put this into just normal mode and I just toggle between them, you can see that the differences come out really clearly. So there's this one, this one, this one, that if you're just trying to sort of spot it by eye from far away, or when the images are side by side, it's really hard. So humans' eyes, our eyes, are really attuned to this sort of spot the difference thing, and you can use that within Nomad. So going back to this thing, when I'm sculpting from reference, so say I want to sculpt this this chap here, what I'll usually do is I'll start with a basic sphere and I'll just mark the basic sort of landmarks of the face, and then I'm going to move the reference so that it's in the center of the frame and quite large, and overlay it on top. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to I've got a keyboard shortcut to toggle the reference on and off. Nowadays, with this bottom bar, you can have a button down there to do that for you. But what I do is I use this to then just sort of line up my head, just the base proportions against the reference, like that. And then straight away, you can see just by doing this toggle back and forth, you can see where my head doesn't match that head. So, and then what you can also do is when this is overlaid on front and it's all set up as you want it, you can go up to the camera menu and go add view, and now this is all locked together. So I can now turn off the reference, I can zoom away, I can do whatever I want. So I can be sculpting out here more broadly, but if I want to go back and check it, I can go here and I can press on this camera view, and it drops me straight back here, and then I can toggle. So often what I'll do is you can also, if you turn on wireframe, the wireframe is visible through the reference image, which is really handy. So I can use this to get like a very sort of rough lineup so that it kind of like locks into the overall proportions. As always with this stuff, you got to use your judgment. So if you get too caught up in matching the silhouette, it won't look right. But really what you want to do is this toggling back and forth, and think of it in terms of volumes. Yes, the outline is matching, but if I actually look at sort of the shading across the head, does this match? Does this feel right compared to what I see in the reference? Obviously, the more kind of shading you have in your actual reference image, the better. But I can even work with this. I can say straight away, obviously, the nose is wrong. So I'm going to try and pull this out. I might use the clay brush to just sort of scribble in some volume there. So it's like that. You can see I've got to get this big bushy mustache and chin bit there. So I'm going to drag that down. I'm going to maybe drag this out a bit further. I'm going to use the crease brush just to sort of like score in where these details sort of need to be. So I've got this eye bag here like that. I'm going to quickly scribble in with a clay brush where these eyebrows go. So you can see that, I'm using it as reference, but I'm also trying to use my judgment as to, have I got it right? And I can see that, okay, I've got a nose, but my nose is too wide. So I might go more from the front view, squeeze it in so that it feels more like a nose. So this is just, it's kind of training your eye. So I've been sculpting enough heads that I can just look at this without the reference, and I can see straight away, okay, this should be more kind of rounded across the top. Maybe across this lump is too big, I've got to pull that back. So I get it looking, I'm often like sort of switching between two modes. One is like this thing where I'm just sort of freeform sculpting using what I have practiced and what I know of doing heads, so that this feels kind of right. so that it feels like some sort of reasonable looking head. I might give myself a few more subdivisions here, multi-res, subdivide more, smooth some of this down, smooth. I might even time lapse this forward a few steps, and I'll let this record and you can see where I get to. You can see here, it's not perfect at all, but it's starting to feel like the reference. And it's because, ultimately, if I jump back to here, I can say, yes, this feels like what I have. Although straight away, almost every time where I say, yes, that feels good, I jump back again and I look at it with fresh eyes and go, wait a minute, I've got that completely wrong. So I might even use the project brush to get some really aggressive changes across here. So I'll slice that off, maybe even further across there. And I'll start to line up these edges again. So that should be probably out to there. That's too low. That's too low. So just trying to get that like that. So, match the silhouette, but then look at it without the reference and see what you need to sort of correct. So I've got to, I think, sort of, let's fill in across the top here, make it back into time-lapse mode again. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. So you can see, obviously needs more work, but in terms of the overall impression, I can now sort of flip between this one, and no doubt you're looking at this and going, hey, why has he missed this shape or that shape? And that's fine. If you can spot it, if you're sort of zeroing in on just the forehead or just the nose or whatever it is, and you see what's wrong, then you can go in and, on your shapes, hopefully, and you can fix it too. That I realize that's too bulbous. It should be more like that. It's just a great way to sort of force you to keep your shapes in check. Another way to think about it is if you look at the reference and kind of imagine, like sort of contour lines, wireframes flowing over this, that can also help you visualize how your shape is, especially if you look at your wireframes and you can sort of compare them. But I find that's almost like a step beyond, like really, if you can just sort of do this sort of spot the difference sort of style of sculpting, you can get pretty good likenesses, and just by doing it over and over, and like I said, as well as comparing the reference, you also spin around the head and make sure that it looks good from multiple angles. It starts to train your eye to see in 3D in volumes and sort of stuff that you didn't see when you first started. Suddenly you'll start to go, oh, I understand that when I spin a head, the forehead should feel like this, and the nose should be this far out, and the nose should, the eyes should be this far back. It's all just practice. The more sculpts you do, the better you get at it. But spot the difference. I guarantee it'll help your sculpts massively.